Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, where today I have a guest that I've wanted to get on for quite some time. Tom has come on the pod. He is a massive inspiration to me pretty much every day since we rekindled, because we knew each other from quite some time ago, back in the days of the Hardwick, working in the pub, working in hospitality, and then reconnected through bodybuilding, essentially. And your story is super inspirational, and I know that people will take a lot from it, how you've delved into the world of bodybuilding. So thank you for your time, first of all.
No problems, thank you.
So where do we begin?
I think if we start at the very beginning, and there's a bit of a reason for this, or a reoccurring theme up to a few years ago. I was always like super competitive and really wanted to, in all honesty, I always wanted to just beat my brother. I've got an older brother who's 2.5 years older. So he started, I can't remember which order it was, he either started swimming first or cycling first, and then I like followed. I was like, oh, I want to do that. And I must have been such an annoying little shit as a brother. But what was quite good at that stage was the fact that he would start something, I would like come through, I'd beat him, he'd stop, and I would continue, which was great. So there was a lot of swimming and cycling at a county level at that point. And then there was that natural progression through into triathlon, which we share some past history with as well. That carried me through like my whole teenage years. And I loved it, apart from the running, which I still absolutely hate to this point.
Agreed.
It'd be very rare to see me out running. And then like normal life happened. So work, drinking, smoking, having fun, which was like, I look back now, and if I had like pushed it just a little bit more, especially on the swimming, I think I probably could have gone quite a long way, which is a shame. And I was only talking about my swim coach the other day. He was a horrible old man, but he was probably like the last of that generation that was allowed to like shout at kids.
Yeah, for sure. Don't you find as well that the discipline from something like swimming, because it's often early morning before school, in the evening, that discipline you get, and then you start to look at nutrition sometimes with some of the swimming coaches, it does lay down the foundations of knowing something.
Totally.
Put it into bodybuilding as well.
100%. I mean, I can remember when I was at college, I used to run 7 miles in from home, the Westgate Leisure Centre, swim train for an hour, and then go to the gym for an hour, then go to college, and then run home at the end of the day. The thought of doing that now just makes me feel a bit sick.
It's amazing what we do as children as well. It's often something, like I say to Matt about it, that when you're a child, you sort of just do things. So you apply yourself to things, and energy's not an issue really. Whereas as you get older, it's like we would tailor our workouts in our day. We'd eat a certain amount of time before, and everything's like structured around one gym session. But as a child,
100%. Yeah, it's mad. So then, like early 20s. Well, actually, I can pinpoint the moment because it was at the Hardwick. I was engaged to be married. So I was 23 at that point, and it was the wedding photos that I got back. And I can remember looking at them and just thinking that it looked like an 11-year-old boy had just got married. And it was my neck. My neck was so small. It was just tiny. And like my collar didn't fit or anything. It just looked ridiculous. I'm not sure that anybody else that looked at it had the same feelings. Chances are they probably didn't. But that was like my personal sort of view on it. And at that point, I can remember thinking, there was a bit of a something happened in the pub one night. There was a group of lads, and they were up to no good. And I remember like asking them to stop, and there was like no authority behind that.
It's like this lean person.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, I remember that point thinking like, I need to change this. I'm just not happy with myself. So I started going to the gym, like with a gym buddy, and it was great. I suddenly put on some size. And with whatever I do, I always try and do some research into the like theories behind it, whether that was like the nutrition or hypertrophy. So I was having that sort of good foundation at that point, and I put on some decent size. I was happy. I was more confident. That confidence was probably going a little bit too much like the cocky side of things.
Egocentric.
Totally. I don't know if you remember, but when I left that management role, and went somewhere else. I ended up working on the door on a Friday night at the Hardwick. You know, it was because I felt that confident, and I really liked that increase in confidence, and I loved the gym work and everything. I have no idea why, but I sort of got to the stage that I wanted to, sort of for size wise and what I look like. And then I went, oh, I'm going to go and do triathlons again.
What I'm going to do is decrease in muscle mass now. I have some.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, so I had to lose like 2 stone. Go back to a racing weight. And I did compete that year and it was great. But again, with the triathlon training, we were just having our first daughter. I was changing my job. So, you know, to commit to the hours upon hours of training that was needed for tries and normal life, like one had to go. So unfortunately with tries. And I did nothing for years then. What I did find was an increasing love for having a drink and relaxing that way. The jobs that I was in at that point, obviously, was all pubs, you know, up until around then. And then I went into more of an office environment. And then, of course, at the end of the day, you come home after your 8 hours, you crack open a beer, and then you crack open another beer, and then, oh, well, I'll have another beer. And there's your evening gone. So it was just sort of stagnated into that. Then it was like, well, why don't I stop at the pub on the way home? I can have that social aspect, so therefore I'm getting that fill there. But then I'll still have the same amount of beers when I go home. So that was like a bit of the start of an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, really, which held me back from actually doing what I wanted to do, because I knew deep down that actually I want to go to the gym. And I did go to the gym quite a few times for periods of time, like 3-month blocks. And I had the motivation to get up in the morning, go to the gym, just using the knowledge that I'd had from when I was 23. But I would never actually commit 100% to it, to either the training or the diet, because at the end of the day, I was still getting home, I was still having the beers, and probably the amount of beers were increasing, you know, over those years. And
it's amazing that you got up and did the gym in the morning and things, because it would usually be something that could go. I guess the discipline you had as a child and as a teenager, maybe there was that undercurrent all the time through that period.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it was, so I was able to do that bit. And the reason that I wanted to sort of train in the mornings, you know how much I hate training in the mornings now. Like, wipes me out for the rest of the day. So I try and avoid it. But the idea of doing it at that point before work was that it didn't disrupt family life too much, and it would set me up for the day. It was that like positive, you know, let's start the day like that. But there was still the attachment to having a drink, and that wasn't going away. I would say that unhealthy relationship with alcohol probably took over quite a large proportion of my life at that time. I wasn't aware of it. Was I aware of it?
It's one of those things though, isn't it? Because I get this with bodybuilding a lot. Like, I had periods of time where I was neurotic with it, but I thought it was completely normal.
Yeah.
You know, and when people would comment, I'd be like, well, no, I'm just passionate about this, or I just enjoy it. Which is similar to if you're going to go down a different route, you know, if you're enjoying it, it's like, well, why shouldn't I have a little bit more?
Yeah, 100%. So those like small forays with the gym never lasted any particular amount of time. And then there was like a period of, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years that I did nothing, you know, absolutely nothing. And we've talked about this before. I always thought I looked quite good. I thought I looked reasonable.
Are you talking about your old photos?
Yeah. Yep. And because I was never particularly fat, I could eat what I wanted, I could drink what I wanted, you know, so it was always okay. Looking back at those photos now, I can see like fat deposits, and you know, the size of me was still probably not much bigger than what I was when I was 23 and I got married and I thought I looked like an 11-year-old boy. So cliche, because I talk about this, you know, it takes you to get to your lowest of lows before you actually do something. And I can pinpoint that day and time that I thought, you know, this is it, because I either continue in that direction, which is easy, isn't it? It's so easy just to carry on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
the hardest bit is to change it. And it's about having that mental strength at that exact point, because you might be aware that you need to change it, but until you're actually ready to make that change and commit to it, you're not going to do it. And there was no reason on that day and on that time that I said, look, I'm going to do this, and did it. There's, you know, that wasn't any different to a week before, a year before, whenever. It was just that I've got just that millimeter more strength in me to do this. And that was like the turning point. I was almost back in the gym the next day because I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I'd tried getting up in the morning, and this was like February, to go sea swimming down in Pagan. I did that for a couple of weeks, again, to break that sort of habit in daily life. All I got was cold.
I was just pissed off and cold.
Yeah. So I tried yoga, I tried running again, tried cycling again, all of those things, but actually they were just hard work, and I didn't particularly enjoy the experience when I was doing them. Mm-hmm. So the gym bit, that was, let's just do something that actually you really love and enjoy. You know, why are we trying to change anything? And the moment that I got back in the gym, I was like, this is where I want to be. This is what I need to focus on. And of course, in that first few weeks, few months of going from doing nothing to actually just concentrating on that. And I probably went a bit over the top, because I was literally putting all of my energy into it, you know, 100% of my focus. But I didn't mind that. It was, in my mind, a healthy obsession going into that.
I think with the gym as well, you get like an instant, you get like a pump, you get that feeling like I'm working on my body. Whereas I think a lot of like triathlon, running, cardio-based stuff, it is, like you say, just hard work.
Yeah,
and it's, you know, in the gym, there's mirrors up. You can look, you can lift weight, you can increase how much weight you're lifting, you can look at your body response. And it's like an instant there, rather than running for miles and you think, I just feel absolutely fucked.
Yeah, completely. And there's that, because you're seeing the physical changes, which happen quite quickly in that first 6-month period, don't they? And but equally the sort of daily or weekly changes, that was helping my mental state as well. And because I was focusing then on my nutrition, which I hadn't done for like 10 years. It was like this perfect recipe for actually, you know, feeling really good about myself. And then, of course, you get everybody telling you how good you look, you know, because actually you probably looked really shit before, and you probably just look marginally better now. But, you know, they were almost polar opposites. That's a driver.
Yeah, because people, I think we forget sometimes how many people don't actually train consistently. So they see a body like yourselves and they think, I'd love to do that. It's not achievable. But what they don't realize, you know, we started our training with, well, we did do more sessions, but then we went down to just doing in the week, sometimes just 4 sessions a week. And I think that's gold for people to understand a little bit more, that it's not like you have to be in the gym for hours and hours to achieve.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, people will still ask me now how many hours per week, you know, I'm in the gym to look like this, expecting me to say some horrendous number. You know, and when I say 6 or 7, they're like, oh, is that it? So if I go to the gym 6 or 7 hours a week, I could look like you. And it's like, well, not exactly.
You need to do your nutrition as well, but
yeah. And I think that's also part of it. I was explaining to somebody the other day. He's got a young family. He's got a wife. He's got 2 jobs at the moment. One of which he starts at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Then he goes and does his like normal job all day, trains in the like late afternoon. And I was saying, look, that sounds horrendous, you know.
How do you keep doing that?
Yeah, I get nearly like 7.5 hours sleep every single night of the week. I can eat whenever I want during my day. I can pretty much train whenever I want during my day. I've got commitments, but, you know, generally speaking, they don't really affect my day-to-day life too much. So I'm in a really fortunate position, like massively, that I can commit so much time and effort to this. You know, I feel fortunate for that. However, I equally feel like I need this. You know, I need it for my mental health as well as my physical health, and to keep me on the right track for sort of what I want to do and where I want to go.
Would you say that when you got to the point where you felt the lowest of the low, was it a case of almost like your world collapsing around you unless you were to change something?
Yeah, no, 100%. If I'd carried on going in the direction I was going, I mean, death was going to be the end result. And that wouldn't have been many years away. And when you're under 40, that's not ideal, is it? Although at some points that felt like the ideal situation. You know, that's how low the lows were. And there's nothing that can change that sort of that mentality. People say, you know, what about your friends, your family, you know, all of these bits and pieces, and that's all lovely, and they are considerations. But when you're low, and you know, that's not just through what I was doing. I think, you know, people can be depressed enough to not see a way out, and through various different effects. That I can wholly say, you know, that the gym has saved me and given me a much happier life, you know, all round, with such a positive effect on those people, that, you know, the family and the friends, the people that are important to you in your life. In that first 6 months of going back to training and saving my life, I think I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve. And then, you know, obviously I've reached out to you at that point. I was like, I can't take this any further.
It's good because you had base knowledge of, you know, training commitment, understanding enough about nutrition to get you to a certain point. But it's like with a lot of people, you know, you can carry on like that and go through cycles or different diets or various other things, but never really progress your physique enough like you would under a coach that's got your best interest at heart. You don't think about, where do I want to be in a year or 2 years time, whereas it's your coach's job to go, okay, so this is where we want to be here, this is where we want to be here, and then to plot those mini goals leading up to the bigger goals. After a bigger goal is achieved, you then get to work on the next part. But as you know, we talk about a massing phase, you know, partway through a diet, and then we talk about a diet partway through a massing phase, and we plot it out. And that's something that I think if you were to do it on your own, you don't really consider.
No, 100%. For me, it would have just been like, I'll bulk for 6 months and then I'll diet for 6 months. That would have been it. You know, that's as complicated as it. And we are probably quite fortunate in so much as we had known each other before. Although I would say that we weren't really friends. We were different people. But now, like, we have this really strong bond between us. And I think if you can have that with your coach, I think, you know, I don't know how rare that is. I'd like to think it's quite rare.
I mean, it was amazing, really, wasn't it, when we reconnected, and then we were like, it was an instant connection, and it was you know, very intense at first, because we were like, wow, like we found something that you don't find, like you say, in normal life. Like, I really appreciate this type of connection with people where you're just completely yourself. And we had said a number of times when we would go for dinner in off season and things, like, we can just say whatever we want to, and I never think, I never overthink it. I never also leave thinking I shouldn't have said that. And that's something we do talk about on the podcast, because, you know, we talk about it in relation to bodybuilding, and particularly in a prep, you start to reassess your circle and who's around you. But that goes for all relationships in life. Like, it should be an ever evolving thing. And it's like, you've got to clear out sometimes, you know, and let go of certain people, which it used to be really hard for me. But now, you know, if someone's not bringing something to the table, as it were, it's, you know, it's not, none of you have done something wrong sometimes. It's just that you've grown apart.
100%. And I think, you know, the foundations of our relationship is that I can remember walking on that treadmill when we were first talking.
Me too.
That was like the furthest I'd ever walked in and out I knew that I had to be open and honest with you from that first moment. And I had to whisper some of the stuff to you because I didn't want other people to know.
Yeah.
And we've kept that open and honesty the whole way through. I mean, I can call you and offload to you about anything and everything.
That is part of it, isn't it? Trusting your coach.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, you know that then, you know, what impact that's going to have on my current state of mind, my training, my nutrition, whatever that is. And so I think that is so important. And it's so nice that we naturally have that now.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, I think the empowerment for each other as well, because there's no like ego, we just want to see each other do well through that honest foundation. And that's something, you know, I always try and say to people, whether it's coaching, whether it's relationships, whether it's other bodybuilders, people that listen to the pod, is strive for that type of relationship, you know, where you can be completely yourself, because it's so refreshing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, 100%.
So let's talk a little bit more about where the gym took you in regards to coming from, you know, that low point to then being able to go to the gym, and suddenly that was then regimented, replacing, you know, the alcohol was quite a big part of your life. Would you say you were dependent on it?
Yeah. Certainly at the end, you know, there was 100% of a dependency on it on a daily basis.
And how did that feel coming away from that? And then was it that the gym was an instant sort of pour of energy, or was it hard to keep you occupied during that time?
No, it was 100% because of that understanding of the sort of nutritional side of things, as well as the physical training. I knew, I mean, it's obvious the negative effects of alcohol on muscle growth. And, you know, that was my ultimate goal. So it was quite easy for me to go, okay, this is my new commitment. And I haven't really sort of looked back. There's those social events that have come up since stopping, which are quite new. There's like in that first 6 months, we talked about these new sort of emotions, new feelings and stuff that I would have that weren't sort of present before. And they still occur now, but way less. For me, I think there's that real connection for the physical changes. I joke now that I can look in a mirror and I'm still shocked that my head is attached to that body, because for me, there's no like correlation between the two. I'm like, wait a minute, who's that?
Who's that?
Yeah.
Who's that good bod that I've always wanted?
Yeah, exactly. And because of those goals, I know that I've got my goal for next year that we're working towards, but I know that's not going to be the end of the story. Somebody asked me the other day, you know, where does this take you? And I said, I'm just going to wait until I get 40, then I'll probably just give up and get fat. That's never going to be the goal. There will be another goal after that. We talk about, and I love this bit, each and every day that I go to the gym, that every meal that I have, that I prepare, every pill that I take, you know, for vitamins, that is making me a better version of me, like every single day. And that's mental.
I get addicted to that though, like addicted to the process of, you know, bettering myself, as it were.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, all the time that I feel like I'm physically improving, I'm mentally improving at the same time. I've done a lot of work. Matt and I have great conversations in regards to like the mental side of things. He's got some great recommendations.
Yeah.
And going back to that's like circle of people, the people that I've met through you and through bodybuilding and through the gym. Like, I love my gym. I love that safe space that I've got. And I've got some great people there as well. That's like a new circle, and the support of these people through bodybuilding is just insane. It's like another level. The messages we get through Insta and stuff are just ridiculous. And some of these people I don't even know. I've never met some of my connections on Insta, but you get messages of support. You know, you get, are you okay? You know, that's wonderful, and you can't beat that. And I'm not saying that I didn't have that before, because I did. It was just different, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what would you say were the big parts of, you know, what Matt gives you in regards to guidance with the mental health side of things? What has the biggest impact there? Or is there a few things that you could share?
Yeah, I think it's certainly it's that sort of overwhelming feeling of I can't cope with stuff, you know, because there's lots of stuff that comes at you all day, every day, isn't there? And there's so much information coming at you. I know I'm a massive overthinker, but I'm aware of that. And I think learning those things through this experience of actually becoming aware of who you are and where you're at and what you can do about it, and those certain triggers that come up and how you respond. I do wonderful things now, like I don't watch the news. I might dip into the 10 o'clock news 10 minutes before I go to bed. But I don't want to be all consumed by the news all the time, because ultimately there's so much stuff out of it that I have no control over whatsoever. So why do I need that in my headspace? And because I'm an overthinker, I will spend too much time thinking about that when really I have no interest in it whatsoever. Now I'll spend my time out taking the dogs for a walk, you know, without that in my head. And, you know, I leave my phone at home. It's having those moments that actually you can turn off. I turn off in the gym pretty much. I don't, depending on who's around, I'll either wear headphones or not wear headphones. I'm not sort of either. I don't need it, but I know that time in the gym is like my hour and a half. It was nearly 2 hours yesterday. Thank you. Is
My pleasure.
slick program. It's my time, you know. So there's no phone calls because I need that escape, and I think just owing that to yourself and having that release, you know. And it's the same with the evening dog walk and leaving the phone at home. Mate, if it can't wait an hour, we've got a problem. You know?
This is the thing though, isn't it? There's quite a lot of, I guess, you know, people say about it of an evening as an example, coming away from social media, coming away from your phone and having downtime before bed as an example, as to how that can impact sleep. And I think that, you know, you do become dependent on that, you know, instant highlight reel of Instagram and getting that, you know, those good endorphins from watching things you like, looking at other people that you like. And then you end up, you know, if it is of a bedtime, going up to bed and your mind's still switched on, and then your sleep's not very good, and that has an impact. And there's certain things like that. It actually takes quite a lot of discipline to be able to do it.
Completely, you know. And it's that scary bit that you're also, with what we do, you're comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, very, very tricky.
Yeah, I was talking to Ash about this at the gym the other day with the competing bit, because it, you know, what we do, you know, we're the only ones really that have any control over what we do. You know, I can listen to you, you can listen to me, and we can, you know, work together. But ultimately, it's me that's in charge of my body. You know, whether I choose to follow the program, whether I choose to follow the macros. I'm going to be the only one that has that positive effect or negative effect as to whether or not I'm listening to my coach and doing those things. So it's quite a selfish sport, isn't it? You know, it's all about me. You're then going to go and be judged by somebody else, which is weird.
It's very like the first time, you know, we do have aspirations of you stepping on stage next year, and first time you can't really put words into it because it's such a cathartic thing for people like us. It becomes an internal drive to do it. But then being judged by a panel of judges that don't know you, you don't know them, and you're completely exposed. It's like, whoa.
And you're like, I'm my own worst critic, you know.
Legit,
we've talked about like the check-in photos, because I can be in the gym, look in the mirror and think, oh yeah, who's that guy attached to my head? And then a day later send check-in photos and be like, ugh, don't like that.
And also like the difference a day makes, because this is what I hammer home to a lot of clients, that, you know, if you've slightly changed your diet the day before, if you've had a bit more stress, if you haven't gone to the toilet, all of these things that contribute to your physique looking different, but then you could do the check-in photos the following day and it will feel okay. And it's just like the trickery of bodybuilding.
Completely. So, you know, that keeps you on your toes as well, doesn't it?
Sure.
But, you know, I love the journey. I said to you the other day, I love this journey. And it's, you know, I'm super passionate about it. But that comparing yourself to others bit, so just going back.
Yeah.
Again, that's a dangerous bit on Insta, isn't it?
This is a big
And
thing
again,
to talk about, though.
yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, you see it in the gym as well. That I love the youngsters that come into the gym, because I think that's great. The fact that they're even in the gym, so that, you know, that's a great journey to be on.
Yep.
And I hope that they stay there. But I don't want them comparing themselves to me. Again, going back to somebody that's got very little responsibility and a like 100% time commitment.
Well, also, there's quite a relevant point in your backstory, because I often say to Matt, you know why he's got wham back? Because he was a swimmer to county level, because that's what you don't know. When you look on Instagram, when you look around the gym, you don't know what people have done before that. And if something like swimming, it really does contribute. You know, if you've done any type of athletics to a good level, that will enhance your physique when you go into something like bodybuilding. So it's definitely a good reminder for people. You know, you can't just look at, especially on Instagram, the Photoshop's available and everything. It's realistic.
Yeah. And of course, you know, just on that bit, you're talking about my back and swimming. Of course, I was only sort of particularly good at breaststroke and butterfly because my natural genetics gave me the body shape that I've got. You know, that's probably not much more than that. Yeah, the training and commitment thereafter, but I'm only sort of adding to what I was born with. And you know, you have to play to your strengths, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. And it's very similar in regards to bodybuilding categories. We actually spoke about this on last week's pod. You're going to be genetically shaped in a certain way, and it might be to start with a certain category and you work your way up to a category that actually you really, you know, inspires you and you've got your focus on. But it might be initially you have to start with a different category because that's the shape of your body, how you look.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's so relevant, isn't it? Like all the social media stuff and the highlight reel and how that can get inside your head, and you know, you can't be someone else.
No. And like, especially with Insta, because obviously the way that the algorithms work, if you're interested in bodybuilding, then that's all you see. You know, if you're interested in fishing, I'm sure it's probably the same.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard then to almost turn off from that and go back to, I don't know, funny cat videos that actually that might be your way of actually turning
Let's
off.
get the endorphins.
Yeah. So yeah, it can be all consuming, and it's great if you are interested in that all of the time. But you know, sometimes you do want to see your friends, or you want to do something else. You know, you want to see what somebody's doing, normal life.
Yeah, I think as well, you know, in regards to sort of normal life, as it were, that's where, you know, in the gaining phase, in the off season, like I mentioned earlier, we went for some nice meals and things. And, you know, there is life to be enjoyed outside of bodybuilding, but it can sometimes be hard because you know what it's like if someone was to say, oh, can we do something on this day? And you know, you're going to the gym, it would be like, not really. So you'd have to try and, you know, negotiate that. And it's important sometimes to have that balance. And if you've got the right people around you to immerse in that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I will always be selfish to a certain degree because I need it, and I know that then that is only a positive thing for those people around me as well. I do find it hard not to, and there'll have to be a really important event for me to go, okay, I'm not training today.
I might if someone's married.
Yeah, but of course then you can just move your week around to suit, you know, and make that an off day. So there's ways and means around it, isn't there? But yeah, you're 100% right. And it's making sure that those people that are nearest and dearest to you understand, you know, where you're at and where you want to be and why you're doing it. I don't think you need to go into the complete details if you don't want to, or you're not comfortable to. They should understand. If they're in your circle, they should understand.
Yeah, and that comes with being open and honest with them. I mean, if there's social scenarios that you're not comfortable in, do you feel more confident now to be able to just say no?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that probably goes back a bit to the sort of mental health bit with Matt, and because of prioritizing yourself and looking after yourself more and saying no more.
Yeah.
Like we were having a conversation here the other day, actually. And, if you're a people pleaser, then it's really hard to say no.
It is very hard. Like, don't you find though, I can always remember the period of time when this transition happened in my life. A bit like when you decide to come away from alcohol, you don't really know why it happened, but there was just this point where I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to just keep saying yes for everyone else.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I went through a stage of then being able to say no, but then almost lying about the reason, rather than just saying no, I can't do that because this. I'd say, oh no, I can't do that, and then try to come up with something plausible. When actually, so many people say no to me. It's probably more than to say yes.
Yeah, but and rather than feeling bad for it, you can just think, okay, so internally that was the decision I needed to make, and I've actually owned it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there was a recent event, wasn't there, that I knew that mentally I wasn't in the right place to be able to go, and if I had gone, I wouldn't have been happy, and I wouldn't have been
the right energy to.
Yeah, it would have brought the group down, and it was more intuitive for me to sort of stick to what I knew at that point and what would try and help my mood improve. And if that means sticking to your routine and doing the things that works, then for your own sanity and the effects on others, you got to do it. Don't get me wrong; it ended up being quite a costly thing to say no to. But again, that's should you be attaching a price to how you feel in the long run?
Yeah, for sure. And would you say that when you visit those periods of time when, like we sort of say it as the mental health side of things takes over and becomes consuming, do those feelings resonate with when you got to your lowest point, or is it miles away from that?
It's a trillion miles away.
And is it very different?
Yeah, it's really different. I'm 100% confident it's the way that everybody else feels throughout their year, or their life, whatever. You have these peaks and troughs, don't you? And but of course, what I used to do was in those low times, just drink a bit more, because then you lift your mood up. You're actually probably becoming more depressed behind the scenes anyway. But so it's then trying to find something else that you can bring yourself back up, and now knowing I don't mind going through stages like that now, because I know that I'll come out the other side with a bit more experience, because I'll go, okay, what did I do last time? What made me happier? What made me sadder? What made me higher or lower? And it might not be the same all the time. It might not be, okay, actually, I need to go and see friends. Sometimes it might be, I don't need to go and see friends, or I don't want to. I need to be by myself for a bit.
And just stick to routine.
Yeah, exactly. And those periods don't last long.
Yeah, and would you say, is it safe to say that they're sort of periods of self-reflection and assessing sort of where you're at and where you're going?
Oh, 100%. And there's things there'll be factors that will have affected your mood that you might not even think of. That you think, oh, well, that was nothing anyway, so that won't have affected me. But actually, subconsciously, it probably is. And again, identifying those, and just identifying those experiences, and then knowing how you dealt with them before and what worked, what didn't work. A bit like, being a better version of yourself every day. Part of that is learning from every experience that you have every day, and seeing then what you can do, how you can improve, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, and something that's
there's a lot of things that don't work as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know a big driver for you with this bodybuilding journey as well is to make your children proud.
That's like the most important goal, because equally they've seen me like go through like the lowest. They wouldn't have been present or aware of it, but you know, physically they would have seen me, experienced me. I think my love for them has been like the same like the whole way through. So again, they wouldn't have seen any difference. But yeah, the whole idea of doing a photo shoot for my 40th birthday is so there is actually something physical that they can hang on to and say, you know, this is my dad, or this was my dad at 40. You know, it'd be nice to give them one when I'm 50, you know, 60, whether or not they'll still be as good. But yeah, just to have that, and yeah, it's really important. It certainly is, you know, equally as a role model. I might not be the perfect role model, the perfect dad, but still like instilling that lesson that if you want something, you know, you have to put in the work. And they do see the work that I put in, both inside the gym and outside the gym. If you do that, then you know you can achieve something. You can achieve what you want, and that's an important lesson for anybody, regardless of whether you're a kid or not.
Yeah. I mean, would you say the life skills and what you've picked up from bodybuilding, like even nutrition and things, is there certain little things that you do with the kids that would try and sort of promote them going down a better route in regards to food choice and things, or?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just that knowledge. You can, you know, when, because kids love saying why, don't they? So, you know, actually having the ability.
Protein.
You have the ability to explain why. And of course, my eldest should be, she's 14, she'll be 15 next year. She loves it. She loves you, know, and you know that's so great for her to be able to see and be part of. And you know, I'm saying to her at the weekend that we're both really confident that she'll end up being coached by you, you know, in a few years' time. Yeah. And she's genuinely excited by that, and like, what a cool thing for a 14-year-old to be excited about, to make those positive changes in their lives and like healthy choices rather than unhealthy choices. I often think, you know, would I ban my children from drinking? And I wouldn't, but I certainly won't ever promote it. You know, it will never feature in my personal life again. So hopefully they'll be able to see that. So, you know, that should make them think, you know, why do I need a drink to have fun? You know, why do I need a drink to have more confidence, feel better about myself? But hopefully they'll see that and understand that.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like we've often said at school, it's a very tricky time. And I think sometimes maybe more so for females, but men as well, you know, going through those teenage years and not knowing where you fit, not knowing even like what clothes to wear. Do you look okay? Do you look too big? Do you look too small? All of these things that go through your mind at that age. It's such a tricky time.
It's horrific. I wish the you try being a ginger skinny boy. You know? Thankfully my best mate was like the biggest guy in the school, so I never had an issue. But yeah, there's a horrendous amount of pressure. And I was saying to Eliza actually on Sunday that like I'm fortunate the fact that we didn't have phones at school. Like phones were just coming out when I went to college, so you know that was a different matter. But what happened at school stayed at school, and like so if there was you know, it's so accessible, and so if people are going through issues, then they can still be going through issues like all evening, you know, all night through to the next day, and it's just constant. And that's really unfair if those are negative issues that are happening. If it's positive, it's lovely. But
I can't imagine what it would be like having social media as a teenager.
No, 100%.
It's just crazy, and it's so hard to, I guess, like I speak to a lot of parents where they try and implement things where the children aren't allowed on social media for a couple of hours of an evening, or they say you can do an hour each evening on it, but it's hard to keep enforcing that when they're at school, when they got their phones, and then not be seen as a negative, because you know what it's like, and you were probably
Gotcha.
you know, when my mum said don't do something, I would do it more. You know, and
no, 100%. Yeah,
and that's where you think my parents don't know a thing, whereas you're lucky because the girls actually idolize you rather than.
Yeah, and of course, like Katie's, their mum is incredible, and they've all got a really open and honest relationship as well. You know, and so going back to Eliza, with her age, you know, they all talk about their friends and stuff. So it's having that open dialogue again is just like crazy important. And thankfully, Eliza still listens to her mum. So, you know, there's no issues there.
Sure. It's long may it continue, because it is so nice, that relationship you have with them. I mean, is there certain things that you've learnt throughout your life in regards to, you know, being that open and honest and trying to be a good dad? Is there certain things that ring in your mind to keep that message coming through for you to, you know, be intentful, immerse when you're with them and be a big part of their life?
Yeah, 100%. You know, we talk like, and what I love is being able to, you know, pick the phone up and talk to you whilst they're all with me. And
I know, it's so cool.
Yeah, there's no sort of particular secrets. Like, we just talk and it's open. I wouldn't say that I have a stronger relationship as the kids do with Katie or they do with me. I think that's awesome, and you know, anything that we can do to promote that and keep that in place, you know, for as long as ever, then hopefully we'll all be all right. Sure. I need them to look after me when I'm old and retired. So,
do they do sports at school now?
They do. Rosie, the middle one, she's like super enthusiastic about everything. She would go to every single club if time allowed. She'll try anything. So she's been in the football team, the cricket team. She'll do ballet. She'll do gymnastics. Hetty's more into the girly things, so gymnastics and ballet. Eliza probably lacks a bit of confidence around those things. Will try anything, but is happier not doing them. But I'm really, really super confident that our time will come with something that she's passionate and she enjoys. We just need to find that bit. And I would love that to be the gym, you know, if that works for her, if that's something that she wants to do. Obviously cautious of the fact that she is only 14. Yep. There's still some years for that to come through, and it's not the right time now. But I think that will be something. We're like super similar out of the three.
She's had a lot of inspiration in you, but also, you know, like I said to you, we talk quite a lot, and it's so nice. Like I said to you, it's to be that person for a girl that's 14 years old. Like, for me, I'm so grateful for that opportunity, because if like we said, if we'd have had like someone we could sort of idolize that was doing something positive with their life, it would have been so good as a teenager.
Oh, 100%. You know, and that's like the positive side of something like Insta, isn't it? You know, that's great. And all the time we can keep on those tracks, it's awesome. And away from the negative impacts of social media.
Life.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening to this and they were, you know, contemplating making a life change, getting into bodybuilding more, is there certain things, snippets of golden nuggets that you would give to people other than just do it?
I think there's a really important bit that you have to be ready to make that change. There's no point in trying to force it. Like those brief forays that I had with the gym over the years that I never fully committed to. Was it a waste of time? No, it probably wasn't, but it was sort of neither here nor there. It wasn't positive, it wasn't negative. It was just nothing. If you can find that millimetre of more strength to actually commit and make that change, then it is literally the greatest thing in the world. However, if you're not ready, that it will come. You know, if you've mentally committed to it, it will come. It might not be quite the right time. replacing all of that negative thoughts and impacts on my health and all of those side effects with this one healthy thing of going to the gym, it has just spiraled into like this whole new life in 18 months, or just over 18 months, which is mad. You know, when I look back, that could have been years, you know, it could have been 5 or 6 years that I feel like I've lived since. And so when I go, that was 18 months ago, that's ridiculous. When I said the other week that we've been coaching together for a year, that doesn't feel like a year. It feels like 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, you know, what you can achieve in such a short period of time and what the huge impacts on the whole rest of your life. You know, it's just crazy, just crazy.
Yeah.
Then it's just about the commitment to it, the consistency, and just doing everything right. I'd said to you the other day, what did I say? It's something rather. It's not hard. It's quite simple, or something rather.
Yeah.
Because in reality, it is quite simple. It's not. There's not actually too much to it. Yeah. If you just do the do.
You don't need to overcomplicate it. Like I say, this coaching, like just choose a coach, make sure it's the right coach for you, consult with multiple people if you want to, what have you, get the right vibe with the coach, and then just execute the plan.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you commit to 100%, you're going to change, and you're going to change for the better. Yeah.
You are a legend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So if people wanted to follow your story, Instagram's probably the best place, isn't it?
Ironically, yeah.
Yeah. And it's Mr. Fordyce.
At Mr. Fordyce, yeah.
So if anyone wants to, you know, you might get people that want to send you a message, or we might get people us in the Instagram stories, and I'm always grateful for that and for people listening to the pod. So if anyone does give us a tag, thank you ahead. And it's been super, super cool to understand a bit more of your story, and hopefully people will take some information from this and use it themselves. Or if anyone wants to ask us a question, we are open books, as you've probably gathered from today's pod. And we would be more than welcome to, you know, bring those messages in and get back to you. So thank you again, Tom.
No, thank you.
And I will see you very soon.
See you later. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.